My name is Madison Timmons.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And this is From One to Wicked, a podcast where we talk about malevolent spirits from around the world and rate them on a scale from 1 to wicked.
All right. Thank you, Tayana. Tayana is our new intern for our podcast and all the Savannah Underground stuff. So awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah. So welcome back to another episode of From One to Wicked. My name is Madison Timmons.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And we have another Scottish entity for y'all. So
we love Scotland.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell.
We freaking love it. We went there on our honeymoon. It was it was another world. It was like visiting another planet. It's like go in November, everything, all the grass is like red. No lie. It looks like Mars sometimes. We went to on the Isle of Skye, and it was just like, if you don't know what the Isle of Skye looks like, I need you to put a pause on this podcast. I know I'm asking you to stop watching our content, and I need you to go Google Isle of Skye with an E at the end of Skye. It is like next freaking level. There's my plug for Scotland. Yeah. Go visit.
We really did enjoy learning about like a lot of the Celtic folklore and things of that nature. And I was rather familiar with Celtic folklore before we went to Scotland. But
wait, real quick. Can I just thank our Patreons?
Yes, absolutely.
Or patrons? All right. So just real quick, I wanted to thank our newest patrons, Tiffany Vineyard, Amy with no last name, but she's great, Alicia Beham, and Kathleen King. Thank y'all so much for supporting us. You all make this happen, seriously. And if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/Savannah Underground, and you can get a whole bunch of bonus stuff, plus early access to every single episode by like multiple days. It's not like, like 10 hours beforehand. I mean, we're talking like when we're done shooting them, I upload all of them probably next day. So like seriously good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're the reason why we get to continue talking about things like Ghillie Dhus as a profession. So, but yeah, so the Ghillie Dhu is one of the first like kind of Celtic mythological creatures that I really encountered. And I was especially interested in it because I'm very interested in the fae and like fairies and things like that, because they are not what you believe them to be. In the U.S., we have this kind of ideology that fairies are these beautiful little like dainty creatures.
Yeah, like Tinkerbell.
Yeah, we picture Tinkerbell, but they're not. They're frightening. They are so.
This is like when I heard that Hansel and Gretel. Well, Hansel and Gretel's always been a messed up one, but like what do they call the books? They're
the Grimms.
The Grimms, yeah. Like you hear about these tales, and you're like, oh, they're kids' tales, and then you read the Grimms, and you're like, oh my god.
Well, yeah, like the Little Mermaid, where she
what?
Like the Little Mermaid, the original Little Mermaid story, where she's like this monstrous siren. Yeah.
That's a Grimm's fairy tale?
I don't know if it's not originally a Grimm's fairy tale, but it's like in that realm of like when it was originally created.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, but heard that agrees.
Maybe we can talk about that in another episode, but it's creepy. If you haven't read like the original Little Mermaid, you should, because it's a horror story.
Goodness gracious.
But anyways, back to what we were saying. So the fae, they are these... I wouldn't call them a goblin because they're not goblins. As a whole different sector of creature, but they're not pretty. They're not dainty. Usually they're sometimes like kind of round, and they've got fangs, or they've got long straggly hair. They're forest creatures.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're not dainty. They can sometimes present themselves as cute little things with wings.
They can shapeshift?
Yeah, they can shapeshift. They steal babies. They, cause curses to happen to people.
We were with just a side note on this. We learned about the Ghillie Dhu before we went to Scotland for our honeymoon, and then we were there. We asked a woman who knows a ton about Scotland, about the Ghillie Dhu, and she was like, "Oh, they're real. They're real. They're often like invisible, but they're real." and
Well,
they will cause serious harm.
yeah, so, and that's a big debate with like a lot of the mythology that comes from the Celtic lore, because some people you ask, they are diehard. They like
Yeah.
are like absolutely these creatures exist. You shouldn't mess with them. All sorts of things like that. And I find like people who tend to be more into the paranormal and more into spirits, they're more
Yeah.
open to things like that. But in the same sense, you know, there are people who are not open to any of it, and you can go to Scotland and ask like, do you see it, do you know if fairies exist, do you know if Ghillie Dhus exist?
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
With this show, by the way, y'all, we don't do anything like, like dragons or anything like that, like a dragon that like, is in a cave. If we talk about a mythological creature, we're talking about something that could potentially really exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is not to say that dragons, at least in that sense, there are some cultures that believe in dragons, but they're not in the sense that we know them as these, things with big wings and look like lizards and stuff.
Yeah.
They are a whole different entity, but we're not talking about dragons
so going
in
back,
this episode.
so going back to the Ghillie Dhu, the first thing that I thought about before Madison gets reading about him is in Scotland. Fun fact: there are no dangerous animals in the woods. You can literally walk through the woods, not get bit by a snake, not get ate by a wolf, not get mauled by a bear, because there's none of that. And when I learned that in Scotland, that you could just go in those creepy dark woods and no animal that we scientifically, classify would ever hurt you. I'm like, Ghillie Dhu done killed them all. That's exactly what happened. Ghillie Dhu, I think the Ghillie Dhu was so aggressive and dominant that it wanted to take out the biggest things.
I mean, possibly, but typically Ghillie Dhus. So let me just get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
And then we can revisit that theory. So Ghillie Dhus are a part of the fairy folk, and they exist in what is known as the She realm, which is the fairy realm in Scotland. And so they are believed to be as old as the Caledonian forest. And that's typically where he's seen, but he has been seen in other parts of the Highlands.
Now, where is the Caledonian forest? I don't think we went through it, did we?
No, I believe it's up towards the western.
We went through the western. You're talking about the eastern?
Yes, the eastern Highlands.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, look up the Caledonian forest, but that's where allegedly that's where most
Maybe
of
that's
this
why we
starts.
didn't see the dew.
But he is a solitary Scottish fairy or elf who lives in the forest, particularly in birch trees, and he is clothed in woven leaves and moss, and he is the guardian spirit of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his name translates from the Scottish Gaelic as dark-haired lad, and he has very dark features. So he's about 3 feet tall. He has black hair with hazelnut dark brown eyes.
Yeah, we went through the Caledonian forest.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and his skin changes colors from green to brown to green again with the seasons. He does not eat meat, and he prefers to eat berries and nuts from his trees. Just his essence doesn't sound frightening. I know. I'm like, but he also
not scared
has
yet.
to have a dark temperament.
Ooh.
And so he is, for those of you who are familiar with Green Man from England and Wales, he's very similar to Green Man. And a lot of people believe there is kind of a connection between the two of them.
Isn't that the Asheville beer?
Yes, there is a beer called the Green Man.
Well, there's a brewery.
Yeah, it's
the Green Man Brewery.
Yes.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
People think there is a connection, though, between the two of them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what he does is he is shy and generally kind to children, but he does have a wild side. And wild meaning not he
gets wasted.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. He's not like in that sense. He's more in like a wild horse or something, like something that cannot be contained.
Okay. Cannot be tamed.
Yes.
Got it. You gotta break the Ghillie Dhu.
Yes.
Gotta turn into a Ghillie Don't.
A Ghillie Dhu. But he does not like adults. He is very, very much so against adults, especially adults that wander into his territory.
Oh.
So usually the people that
What I say, territorial.
very territorial.
Oh.
So usually the adults that encounter the Ghillie Dhu are those who have gotten lost in the woods, which I will say is quite easy to do in the Scottish wilderness.
Yeah. I mean, after hearing that there's nothing that can hurt me in those woods.
And the right to roam laws.
In the right to roam laws, you can literally go anywhere you want, as long as there's nothing, you're not doing anything stupid or malicious. But the forest, y'all, when you look at it, it's like, I know they shot Harry Potter in Scotland, so like, duh, it looks like this, but it looks like the Forbidden Forest. I mean, thick trees that you're like, could I even squeeze my body through those? I mean, like, just like the brush is so thick, but it's so beautiful. There's moss instead of grass.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like every fairy tale that you've ever thought of, I don't know. It's very Hansel and Gretel. I love it.
It is. It's beautiful. But yeah, so for adults, if you venture into the forest at night and offend Ghillie Dhu,
How do you offend him?
By walking on his territory.
Oh, that's it?
Or also,
just your presence?
Yes, usually that's enough. But also if you disrespect nature, or he's
yeah.
a lot like La Madre Monte in the way that if you're...
A lot of these are a lot like La Madre Monte.
Yeah, and so if you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch that one. She's another...
That's actually a Patreon exclusive.
That is, yes. So La Madre Monte was also a spirit that protects nature and things like that. So it's a very similar sort of concept, but
so maybe you wouldn't be killing animals.
Yeah, so that's why I was going to bring that up. But
maybe okay.
He's much more inclined to kill a person, an adult. But the way he goes about it is that he will reach out his thin, long, leafy arms and crush you in his angry embrace, leaving the adult human to rot into earthly compost. Or he might kidnap you and drag you into the fairy realm to be enslaved forever.
God.
Yeah.
Bro. How many people in the fairy realm? Enslaved? They got like what?
They got human slaves in the fairy realm.
My
This
God.
is why I'm saying if fairies are not like Tinkerbell. They are they're not nice creatures. But yes. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry if you were very fond of fairies.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking at it from a traditional folklore sort of standpoint,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
there's so many people that loved fairies as kids and Tinkerbell.
You can still be interested in fairies, but there is a level of you have to have an understanding of precaution against them. Because they're a lot. We'll go into that after we discuss Ghillie Dhu.
Right.
But so Ghillie Dhu is also very concerned with the health of Scottish children's teeth, which is interesting, and he is believed to be the tooth fairy.
Does he know he's doing? Does he know he's doing a bad job?
Oh my God.
I mean.
Listen,
it's an American joke. We're just jerks over here, but we always make fun of UK teeth.
But anyways, yes, so he's known as the tooth fairy. And so this can be considered for the same tooth fairy that we have.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing over in the UK where they put the tooth under your pillow and then, I don't know if they get money for their tooth fairies. But regardless, that tradition came about because the Ghillie Dhu collects the teeth from the kids and basically uses their teeth to put a protective spell over the children.
Gotcha.
Which has been known to be like the case with some fairies. So personally, I've always been a little weirded out by a tooth fairy because I'm like, why does this creature want my teeth? And rightfully so, because any kind of thing from your body has that essence of you, which makes a spell more powerful, which is why people, when they're doing hexes, they need like a piece of someone's hair or their
Yeah.
saliva or,
Of course, you're thinking way too deep into it.
I understand. We will talk about fairies once I'm done about this.
Tooth fairy's not real, though.
If the Ghillie Dhu is real, and he's the tooth fairy,
different.
so,
I don't know about all that.
but I'm just saying,
Sure.
if in Scotland he might be, the tooth fairy might be real
Heard that.
because, that if he's concerned with children's teeth and he's wanting to put protective spells on them,
Yeah.
which
I
he
know.
could just as easily do a evil spell on them. I'm just saying, it's a little weird. So the last part that I thought was interesting with Ghillie Dhu is that some people believe that he has also traveled over to North America.
Oh.
Too, in the 1700s, people believe that he followed the fur trappers that came to North America in search to kill them because they were harming animals.
Oh, boy.
So, let's discuss.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. I would say that I was completely wrong about the Ghillie Dhu being like dominant over other animals, and that's why there's nothing that can hurt you in
I think
Scottish
Scotland's
forests.
just a magical place.
I think I think Scotland's just like inviting you into its forests. But all dark mossy forests have to have a protector, has there been anyone like killed or like taken by the Ghillie Dhu?
Well, if they were taken by the Ghillie Dhu, they're not coming back. Like, if they're being dragged into the fairy realm,
So they would be just a missing person,
basically,
like in the woods, which Scotland doesn't have a lot of those. The crime rate's super low.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like the methods of Ghillie Dhu's like actions are very like leave no trace.
Sure. Understood.
You either turn into compost, which nobody's going to find you that way.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get dragged into the fairy realm. Again, no one's going to find you that way because nobody's traveling over to the fairy realm.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know if people have seen him or not.
I mean, there have been reports of people seeing what they believe to be the Ghillie Dhu, but a lot of people like to write it off that he was like some crazy man who lived in the woods and covered himself in leaves and stuff.
Okay.
Same way with Green Man.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't negate the fact that it's been so deeply steeped into Celtic folklore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, this is dated back to like their earliest people.
Okay. So this is like an ancient fairy.
Like the ancient druids of Scotland, Ireland, they all have reports of fae and elvish creatures.
Sure.
So, and fae has always been like something that has been pretty feared in Celtic folklore, because they're notorious for, if you accidentally offer them something, you make an offering to the fae, they will ruin your life, basically. They've tried to steal children from people.
Yeah.
They've tried, if they find out your name, you're in some bad luck right there because they put spells on you that cause harm to your life. Things of that nature. Remember when we went to the fairy pools and I was telling you how, because if we'll insert a photo of the fairy pools, you'll see there's these rings that are naturally occurring in where the fairy pools are, and you see people stepping in them. And I told you, I was like, they shouldn't do that because they're going to anger the fae. And if you anger the fae, it's not a good day for you.
Okay.
And it was interesting when we went to the fairy pools, everywhere you could see these little mushroom houses looking. No, seriously, you could see these little mushrooms that looked like
houses.
Well, so in fae folklore, it's considered that like mushrooms and like little rock configures is where the fae live.
Sure.
And they were everywhere. And there are so many mushroom circles naturally growing in that area, which is also a sign of the Fae. That's why you don't
Yeah,
step
they
in
like
mushroom rings.
they did have like mushroom circles.
Yeah, that you don't step in mushroom rings because that is like a trap that the Fae
Then you had
are
a bunch
laying.
of dumb American tourists just.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, that's gonna suck for you guys later, you know. But if so, that innately brings the Ghillie Dhu's score higher for me.
Okay.
Because he comes from the sub species that are innately mischievous and malevolent. Even though he has a soft spot, he has a benevolent soft spot for children. The way
Which is the exact opposite of the last episode we did.
Yes. But the way he behaves with adults, and it doesn't take a lot to anger him, that's what makes him frightening, in my opinion.
Sure.
You know, because any creature that is willing to enslave you is malevolent.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter how you break it
down.
I
completely agree. Know? I completely agree.
And I feel like a lot of people who have encountered the Ghillie Dhu, if they have encountered him and not gotten enslaved or not, had something horrible happen to them, I highly doubt they're going to want to talk about it.
All right. So what's your rating?
I'm going to give him a 7.5.
Whoa!
Yes.
That's so high. No.
What are you going to give him?
3.
A 3?
A 3.
I could... Maybe it's just because I have read too much about what the Fae do, that anything that comes from the Fae just immediately makes me uneasy.
Dude, we went all throughout Scotland. We were fine.
Because we're not disrespectful individuals.
Well, that French family that, we're jumping all in the rings and everything, I'm sure they're okay.
Are they, though?
I don't know.
I'm just saying. And now, at the fairy pools, that's not Ghillie Dhu's territory.
7.5?
Because,
bro,
think about what he does.
I'm not leaving 3. I'm not leaving 3.
Okay, sure, that's fine. But I'm just saying, anything that wants to enslave someone or literally crushes them to death and turns them into compost, that's too much for me. You know?
Yeah. I mean, so
it's not like Bloody Mackenzie.
Let me put this
where
on.
I gave him a 9.
Madison and I have been talking about how we want to own property in Scotland, and therefore I have done some research on just normal things like crime rates and all of that. And when I say that there's like a couple murders a year, that's literally how it be. And they almost always catch the murderer. And I don't see enough evidence that the Ghillie Dhu's out here making people go missing.
This is in the middle of the Highlands.
Oh, I get it. But they had to
Edinburgh.
come from somewhere. They have to fly into Edinburgh. So why are they not flying out?
But it's not necessarily Americans that are getting
Not only Americans. That's not what I'm saying. Tourists.
So, but why are you just assuming that it's just tourists and not Scottish people?
It might be Scottish people, but again, the statistics just aren't there for missing Scottish people. There's nothing in those forests that can, other than the Ghillie Dhu, that could hurt the Scottish people. So it's like,
I'm just saying.
There's just not a ton of deaths.
But they're not gonna. How are they gonna know though? They're not gonna know that
They're gonna know when they don't come home.
I'm just saying though.
She just wants it to be.
I'm just saying.
You just want there to be some evil spirit out there, hunting people who step in the rings.
Well, he's not. It's not him. That's not his motive. He's not stepping in rings and stuff.
No, that hunt people that step in the rings. Is what I mean.
That's not what he's hunting. He's hunting people that are disrespecting nature.
Yeah.
And also who stumble into his territory. He hides in birch trees. So
okay.
It's not in the fairy pools.
Right. You're entitled to your 7.5. I'm just saying little high.
I'm just saying.
This isn't even close to Bloody Mackenzie for me.
I give Bloody Mackenzie a 9. That is very different.
Yeah, I mean, that 7.5 and a 9 is very different. But
I will give you a 6. That is...
All right, I'll take it. I'm giving him a 3 just because I know the I've known the recent crime statistics in Scotland, and they're almost non-existent for things like missing people and murders. So I that's why I give him a 3, because I don't think he's super active. If he's out there, which he could be, I don't think that he's super active, and I think that maybe he is shy.
Well, yes, he is a shy creature, but
I mean, he'd be hiding in birch trees.
I'm just saying, it's not a spirit you want to mess with. And in my opinion, the fact that his legacy has extended through centuries.
Yeah,
has some merit to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like the fact that when we brought, the Ghillie Dhu up to our family friend Kirsty, the Scottish expert, like she has a PhD in Scottish history. She also was like, absolutely not. I don't mess with fairies. I don't mess with those sort of things.
Because we asked her at that graveyard she took us to.
There is merit.
We asked her at that graveyard that she took us to. I wish that we had this podcast at that time, because that would be a killer. Graveyard was cool. Anyway, I'm sticking with 3, but
I'm sticking with my gut that Ghillie Dhu is nothing you want to mess with.
I mean, if I saw him, I wouldn't want to mess with him. I'd probably take my camera out. Let's just be real.
JTB, the one that would get enslaved in the fairy realm. I wouldn't though, because I'm respectful.
No, I'm respectful too. I just want to film it.
I'm just telling you, my Celtic ancestors that I have.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we don't mess with that. So in every book I've ever read on the Fae, they're just like, you can learn about them, but don't mess with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
That was the biggest difference that we've had on an entity thus far.
Yeah, that was Bloody Mackenzie. We were like 15.
Yeah, Bloody Mackenzie.
15 out of 10.
He was frightening.
Woo-wee.
Which
I don't know if anyone could beat him.
I don't know. He might be the most malevolent, but you never know.
Yeah.
And as always, if you have a suggestion of a malevolent spirit that you want us to talk about, or of any spirits that you think we would be interested in to kind of dissect and look into, please let us know. Because, I mean, I usually pick spirits that we are interested in, but there might be things that I don't know that exist.
There's a ton of things we don't know exist.
Yeah. So, so definitely do that if you're interested in things like that. Also, check out our Patreon as always. And also follow us on TikTok at the Savannah Underground and on Instagram at Savannah Underground. And we will see you in the next episode, I guess.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm JT Timmons.
And stay spooky, y'all.